And George Hickman, Tiger Muay Thai coach. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, or I guess for you this morning. Fight Island, second time round. You got a little bit of a different sort of setup for this weekend. Obviously, you got Khalil Rountree and you're cornering Dan Hooker as well. Can you just tell me a little bit about how the Dan Hooker situation came around?
Yeah, it's funny. I spoke to you this morning. I was laughing about that, like the whole situation. So yeah, I'm here with Khalil. I coach Khalil. He trains at Tiger Muay Thai, and obviously, like with the COVID restrictions and the different things around the world right now, it's kind of a very different situation. And Thailand's pretty strict about quarantine and things like that, and the whole COVID situation. As are obviously New Zealand, which I think is a little bit more strict, with the voucher system that you guys have. So basically, I woke up, I don't know, maybe 2 3 weeks ago. I can't. John, he had messaged me and said, "Oh, you're cornering Dan," and I was like, "What?" And I didn't really know, but it was, yeah, it was. I think it was just some like miscommunication with my brother and stuff. So yeah, I messaged Dan and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna be there, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, mate, I'll be there, So whatever you need, because obviously, I've known Dan for a while, so I was more than happy to help any way that I can.
With the corner situation, a lot of people sort of saw that Eugene wasn't going to be there and brought up the Barboza fight. Obviously, Eugene wasn't there when Dan got stopped for the first time. Do you feel as a cornerman there's additional pressure or anything like that? Like for you, how significant is the role of the corner in a fight?
Well, I think having a corner is a good corner or somebody that you're very familiar with is a very important part of the fight. It's a bit different than if I just jumped in somebody's corner that I had no idea who they are. I wasn't a part of Dan's preparation for this fight. Um, Obviously, the coaching staff at City Kickboxing, Eugene and the rest of the coaches are the best in the world at what they do. The statistics speak for itself. But me knowing Dan is the type of guy, whether it was me or my brother or some other random bloke, knocking around that jumped in the corner. I don't think mentally it really has an effect on him. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to see Dan succeed and do very well. And I guess what would be the word? Um, it was nice that Eugene, I guess, trusted me to to step in since the logistically none of their coaches could be here. So that means a lot to me coming from him because he's a guy that I've known for a while and I've learned a lot from. So yeah, it definitely, obviously I want anybody that I'm with to do well, but yeah, I guess not really so much pressure because Dan's already done all the work and done the video review and done everything with his coaches at City Kickboxing. And I think Dan's the type of guy that can go out there and execute the game plan, and all is all.
Yeah, just on that, obviously, like you say, you haven't been with Dan throughout the camp. You know how the city kickboxing boys work. They're all very diligent about how they approach things. Have you done any scouting of Michael Chandler, or have you just been predominantly focused on Khalil Rountree and preparing him for his comeback fight?
Um, well, obviously, I've done the same as what those coaches have done for Chandler. I've done for Khalil and the other coaches that are with me. But yeah, when I found out that I was going to be helping Dan, of course, I watch definitely watch Mike Chandler fight. I know who he is. I know we wrestled during the same time in college, and he's a very high level wrestler, and I followed his career a bit, and not closely, but I definitely paid attention. When he was fighting in Bellator. But yes, I have to answer your question. Obviously, I wanted to watch and get a read and see see what I thought of it. And, I've spoken to Eugene and stuff. So, yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
Did you ever wrestle against Michael Chandler?
No, he was, I wrestled at 149 in college and he wrestled at 157. And he was, he accomplished, way more than I did in college. But I did have a teammate that wrestled him in college, actually in one of the All American rounds. Yeah, so yeah, I'm very familiar with him.
Excellent, man. Just moving on to Khalil. Obviously, he was contemplating retirement not that long ago. Can you sort of tell me anything about the thought process that went into getting him back into the cage?
I don't think that it was, anything that I said or anyone else said. Khalil's his own man, and yeah, I think that he, molded over, back whenever, I don't even remember how long ago that was, that, he had, people, whatever it was that came out, that, people thought that he was going to retire and stuff. But, yeah, he, got another fight, and it was just like, nothing had changed. And he was last year, in like right after, actually, after I'd come back from Auckland, from the Auckland UFC card. Um, I was getting ready to go in March with him to, I believe it was Ohio, is where the event was going to be. And about a week before is when they canceled that UFC event and his fight. I think he was supposed to, if I remember correctly, maybe fight Sam Alvey, which was, a great fight for him. We were, geared up and ready to go. And then obviously, the COVID situation kind of escalated. And I think it was right around the time that I saw they shut the NBA down is when I knew that it was a very strong possibility that, we wouldn't be going to that event. But with that being said, he, he never stopped training, even when all the stuff in the media came out about maybe he would retire. Or, again, I don't remember the exact details of that, but, we trained pretty much the whole year, and he didn't leave Thailand. He stayed in Thailand all through COVID until, now that we're here at Fight Island. So it's not like he just stopped training and, ate a bunch of food and got overweight, and, that was that. He continued to train, and he's Khalil's he's a very, he loves martial arts, like whether he was retired or not retired, he would still be training. He loves Muay Thai, he loves training MMA. So it wasn't like a big situation like, oh, this guy's been, retired for years or something like that and coming out of retirement. I mean, to me, it was like, I thought that he would fight. I just thought that, whatever was said, again, I don't remember correctly what it was, but I didn't think much of it. And, we continue to train and hit pads, and here we are. And here we are. So it's, I'm excited for him, I'm really excited to see how much he's grown over the last year, and look forward to him putting on a great performance.
I spoke to Dan a little bit earlier in the week just about I guess, the spotlight that's going to be on this card. Is that something that excites your guys' camp with Khalil? Obviously, a McGregor card brings plenty of eyes to it, be it just the pay per view or the whole card. I mean, I'm going to be watching the whole card.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone's going to, it's, what do they call it? Like the McGregor effect or something like that. Uh, yeah, I mean, hell, even John Boy, the boxing coach that's with me, he's Irish, so he's pumped. He knows some of McGregor's coaches as well, from the boxing world in Ireland. So it's it's definitely, I think through the last year with the situation of COVID and stuff, has definitely brought more eyes to the sport, and even people who aren't like big MMA fans, people know who Conor McGregor is. The guy's a complete superstar, and so yeah, I think people will be tuning in, and it's, you know not only as a coach and being here with Dan also, but as a fan, it's cool to see all the buzz that's going on around this, and especially for Dan, it's really elevated it and put him into the spotlight. Um, with the whole situation of like Connor, and even Khabib's been knocking around and had I think his cousin or whatever fought last night, um, and Dan going up against Chandler and Hooker and Poirier. going off in the main event, and Dan being the co-main event. I think it's really yeah. There's just like a ton of buzz going around, and it's just cool to be here and be able to I get a front row seat to the whole thing. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to the press conference actually later. I think that is today. I was joking with Dan this morning when he was training about that, so that'll be interesting.
So when you say when Dan was training, you mean he wasn't training for the press conference, right? Because I remember him. I remember him saying earlier in the week, I think it was an interview with MMA Junkie, that you got to be on your toes because you don't want to get who the fuck is that guy. So
yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly
I think
right.
I think he's got a few things planned.
We were laughing about that because it's funny because Conor, being from Ireland and Dan from New Zealand, and then obviously Chandler and Poirier being Americans, there's definitely the banter is different in America compared to how it is kind of in Europe and stuff, and in New Zealand and Australia. So being in Thailand for as long as I've been there now, I probably have I definitely have more friends that are, Kiwi and Australian and English than I do Americans in Thailand. So I definitely, it took me some time, the first year to get used to the way that, the humor that they have. But I quite enjoy it now. And I don't think a lot of Americans know how to take, Kiwi and English and Irish humor. It's a bit different, but I really enjoy it. So I was joking with Dan this morning saying like, I hope you got your lines, lined up for when Conor says something to you, or, it's so I think it'll be an interesting press conference.
Yeah, man. And just looking a little bit more widely at Tiger Muay Thai, I mean, a lot of people are starting to learn, you guys have some killers out there. Rafael Fiziev being the most recent one. I had someone ask me the other day, like, would Fiziev and Riddell, would that fight ever happen? Because a lot of people seem to think, if a guy's trained at one gym or he's friends with one gym, they're not likely to meet each other. But is that something that people sort of just make up?
I think that Brad and Rafael, I don't think that right now where they're both at in their careers, in my opinion, I don't think that they would go against each other because they've trained together and they're friends. And but when you're talking about like top five and things like that and title contention, that changes things a bit. But I think at this point we don't have to worry about in the foreseeable future of those two matchup or that matchup happening. And it's funny because like you said, I see people on in social media, saying like, oh, this would be a dream matchup, having these two guys, these great strikers, going against each other. But like I said, man, they're friends. They've trained together, and I don't see that matchup, happening unless it was, something to do with title contention and things like that.
Who's the next person we should be looking out for from Tiger?
It's in what sense, and just in the UFC or in coming up or
anywhere? If there's one prospect that you particularly like the look of.
I don't think there's anyone, really in particular. Tiger's I say this to people a lot, it's a very different gym. It's not like me having a gym in America or, city kickboxing or something like that, where everyone for the most part is, homegrown, or comes there and, lives there and becomes a citizen or whatever. Living in Thailand is very different. Like you're never going to become a citizen of Thailand. So most of the fighters that I deal with are fighters that, either come there and they, a lot of the up and coming fighters train there, year round, that are in smaller promotions, or maybe they fight in 1FC and things like that. But we have people that come consistently, like, Peter Yan, for example, is a guy that's done pretty much every single camp since his, I think, professional debut or second pro fight. I can't remember exactly. I remember the first day training with Peter Yan, and actually I think Brad Riddell was probably in the room that day as well. Nobody knew who he was. He was just a Russian guy that didn't speak English, and he could fight. And And, you know, he's done almost every camp except I think one time he went to Nova Unao in Brazil and did a camp there. But right after that, you know, he continued coming back to Tiger, and he would be at Tiger right now, but because of the logistics of COVID, it's just not, it's not feasible for him to come into the country right now. So John Boy, actually, who's with me, he will be, as soon as he leaves Fight Island after Khalil's fight, he's headed to Miami to help Peter prepare for the title fight that's coming up. But we have, like, you know, Loma Lookboonmee, who's in the UFC. You know, she's a great prospect that's, you know, still young in her UFC career, very young in her MMA career, but obviously has an extensive you know, background in Muay Thai, and was a very high level Muay Thai fighter. Um, but yeah, I would say, like, as a prospect that's already in the UFC, it would be her. But we have other guys like Bruno Robusto, who's a lightweight Brazilian kid. He trains at Tiger full time, and he's not signed with a promotion currently at the moment. Um, and he's a very good fighter, and that I look forward to, you know, hopefully in the near future, him getting signed to a big promotion. So, and actually, we have a guy tomorrow. Today's Thursday. I'm getting all screwed up with the time change. We have a guy tomorrow that's fighting in one championship. His name's Fabricio Andrade, and it's only his second fight in ONE FC, and he's actually his first fight. I think Mark Alvarado is a Kiwi that trains in Thailand. He fought him his first fight in ONE FC, and he's taken on now, I think, the number 2 guy in the weight class. That's a Japanese guy in one championship, either tomorrow or next week. I can't remember exactly. But he's or maybe it's in a couple weeks, but that's his upcoming fight. And he's another, you know, high level kickboxer that has transitioned into MMA, and yeah, I look forward to seeing him do big things.